Okay, so just testing the audio. Joan is in the studio. Hopefully she can hear me okay. Do these slides look okay? Sometimes they rescale. Looks like it's getting cut off a little bit. Okay, so just testing the audio. Joan is in the studio. Hopefully she can hear me okay. Do these slides look okay? Sometimes they rescale.
Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing. Hello, hello, hello. Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3.
Hello, Boston. Hello, we're about to get started. So everyone can find your seats. Hello, I'm TJ Mahar. I'm the meetup organizer of the Ministry Testing Boston. Thank you so much for coming out. And most of all, thank you so much, Angie, for coming all the way from San Francisco, from Twitter to actually give this talk. Yeah, I just wanted to say, if anyone feels like speaking to the Ministry of Testing Boston, to just give your 2 cents about your favorite tools and tips on software testing, contact me. You don't have to be a professional speaker. Meredith here, one of our event organizers, is trying to put together a segment of 10-minute lightning talks. So if you have something you want to share, a tool set that you want to show everyone else, contact her. Announcements coming real soon now. Thank you so much, Meredith. Okay, and also thank you, SmartBear, for putting this whole thing together. Thank you, our newest event organizers, Bria and Brienne, for putting all of this. I'd just like to give you a hand. Thank you. Okay, and Alex from SmartBear, take it away.
Hi everyone, thanks for joining us at SmartBear. We're really excited to have you for this meetup. We have a very special guest with us today. Obviously, you probably know of Angie Jones. She is the senior automation engineer at Twitter, and she will be talking about which test should I automate. So I think we all have a lot to learn from her, especially getting started with automation can be kind of difficult to, we all want to test everything that there is, but not always supposed to do that. So with any further ado, Angie, go ahead.
We're in business? All right, awesome. Cool. Thank you all so much for coming. I hear there's people on the live stream as well, so hello to you all. My name is Angie Jones. Again, I work at Twitter as a senior automation engineer out in San Francisco. I blog about automation techniques and strategies at angiejones.tech. So if you want to go out there and look for some information, there's some cool stuff there. And you can even subscribe, and I'll send you an email when I put out new content. I'm also on Twitter at TechGirl1908. How many people are on Twitter? Oh, this is so good. All right, very good, very good. The rest of you get with the program like you're missing out on life. All right? So today, I want to go over which test should we automate. A lot of people that I talk to, either they feel that they should automate everything. Is there anyone in the room that feels, yeah, we should pretty much automate 100% of the things? All right. A couple of folks, and they're very adamant about it. All right, so I'll try to talk you out of that before you leave. And the rest of the folks. So some people are like, I know I probably shouldn't automate everything, but what should I automate? I don't really know what to take out or what to keep in. So that's what we'll go over today. Do I have any test managers in the room? Y'all are lying, because some people came up to me and told me that they were managers. We won't fight you, I promise. All right. So, all right, there's a couple of hands. All right. So, test managers, like a lot of practitioners, so they kind of know, well, I probably shouldn't automate all the things, but there's a lot of test managers who still believe that this is the right way to go. And their intentions are good. It's not like they're just crazy or out of touch with reality. It's more so that they are getting pressure to shorten the testing cycle, right? And so one way that they think that they can do this is by automating a lot of the regression tests so that their testers don't have to be bothered with this. Now, this is really good intention. However, there are some problems that arise from this, such as maintenance. So maintenance, for a lot of you who are, how many people have not actually started your automation yet, or you're in the early stages of doing so? Okay, quite a few. Good. So this is good stuff. Let me catch you now. So when you're automating tests, one thing that people don't factor in is this whole maintenance cycle that goes along with it. So they factor in the time and the cost to get someone to actually script the test. Cool. But if you think about this, we are writing automated tests against an active product, an active production code base. That code base is going to change. So with that, your automation has to change to keep up with it. And this is something that a lot of people don't factor in when they're doing their sizings and things. This takes quite a bit of time. I've been on teams where we've had to dedicate a full-time person just on maintenance. Once the suite got so large, you have tests that need to be updated as the product is being updated. You have tests that are flaking and failing, and so someone needs to do that. Someone needs to triage things. So there's a lot of maintenance that's required. Be sure to consider that when you're doing your automation projects. Also, time. So lots of automation will require lots of time. If we automate all the things, it sounds good in theory, and you think that you're saving time. However, the time that it takes not only to write the test, but also to maintain them, to execute them. Let's not even talk about once the tests fail, right? So triaging and all of this stuff. So the more tests you have, the more time it takes. Even though you think you're saving time, it's not necessarily true, all right? And then the noise. How many people have automated suites where the developer makes a check-in? Do I have any developers in the room? Okay, developers, let me ask you. So you make a check-in, right? And the suite runs, and there's 50 things that fail. And you're like, oh crap, like I didn't make that big of a change, right? And you're scared, and you look through the stuff, and it's 50 failures, but it's all one thing that's broken, right? So I call this noise. This is redundant noise. Did you need 50 things to tell you that you broke something? Or would one thing have been efficient, right? So when we see things that are failing, all for the same reason, it's telling us that there's some redundancy in our code, our automation code. So in order to combat this, I like to tell people, try not to execute the same paths in your automation code. And it's really tempting to do because you built out framework to do X, Y, Z, and now you have another test that's a slight variation of that. I already had the building blocks, why wouldn't I reuse it, right? There's a couple of issues with that. One is, let's say all of this stuff that you're doing, this prereq stuff, if something breaks in that, you are blocked from testing what it is that you're actually wanting to test. So I encourage people to do things like maybe have one UI test that'll go through a certain flow. And if you have variations of that, come off the UI. Find another way to do that. Are there web services that you can call in your application to make that go a whole lot faster? Or can you skip? I love to cheat in my automation code. So, for example, let's say I have a scenario where I need to test removing something from a cart. If I did this via the UI, I would search for the product, I would find the product, I would click on the product, I would click to add the product to the cart, I would go to the cart. All of that before I ever got to what it is I wanted to test. Any of that is broken, I can't test what it is I want to test. So how about I skip all of that foolishness, call a web service that'll just add the product to the cart, and then the only UI step I have to do is to go to the cart and test what I need to test. So that's a way to kind of remove some of that redundancy from your code. So we don't want you to automate all the things, but automate the right things. And what are the right things, you may ask? Well, I can't give you a hard, fast rule, but I do have a formula that I use, that I go through all of my tests, and I essentially apply this formula to them to determine if they're a good candidate for automation or not. So that's what we're going to do today. This is an interactive session. Like I told you, my voice is hanging on by a thread. So you all are going to participate now. Do you all have the worksheets that they had at the check-in? If not, raise your hand and we can get some to you. I'm also going to ask that you pair with someone. If you're not a pair type of person, like you're an introvert or like, hey, I've been pairing all day and I got off of work and I don't feel like talking to people, that's cool too. Do you? For those online, there's a link to the worksheet. All right? And you only need one, well, you can get two if you want. All right, cool? Everybody have one. Awesome. All right. What we're going to do is we're going to look at these scenarios, which are Twitter scenarios. You all already told me you're on Twitter. So this is your test, right? So these are testing the profile feature on Twitter. We have add a tweet, view tweets, pin a tweet, follow a user, set your username or handle, same thing. Set location, update handle, block a user, view analytics of a tweet, and balloons appear when it's someone's birthday. Have you all seen the balloons on Twitter? When it's someone, right? So there's this feature where if it's, let's say today is your birthday, right? If I come to your profile on your birthday and you told Twitter that today is your birthday, then I will see balloons fly up for you. All right? So that's the scenario. What I would like you to do, some of you were getting your thing, so let me repeat this. I would like you to work in pairs. If you don't want to work in pairs, that's fine. I get it. Sometimes I don't feel like talking to people either, right? That's cool if you want to do your own thing, but I would recommend pairs, right? And I want you to look over these scenarios. And in the first column, I want you to put your gut reaction on whether or not you think that this is a good candidate for automation. You just started the job today, and they asked you which one of these we should automate. Which ones are you checking? Just put a little check mark next to the ones that you think. Take a moment to do that. I'm sorry, are there any questions? All right, cool. No, just stay with G for now. You're trying to move ahead. Online? All right, all right, all right. How we doing? We good? All right. Couple of common questions that came up. One was, Angie, what are these letters for? You're jumping ahead. Slow down. Just to make sure you all stay the whole time, I will reveal them one by one. All right. Another popular question was, what do you mean by automate? Are you saying the UI? Are you saying web services? Whatever you want. Doesn't matter the layer, but would you write code that tests this? That's what I'm asking. All right. Another funny question. Someone said, what does it mean to block a user? And it was clear that they don't use Twitter, right? Because this is like, this has to work. All right. All right. So how many people have all 10 of these checked for automation? Very good. Very good. 9, 8. Okay. For the 8s, which 2 do you not have? Balloons. And setting a location. How about you? You said view tweet? And then what else that handle? Okay. All right. Anyone have number 10 checked? Saying, yes, we would automate the balloons. Couple of people. All right. You're in good company. Jason Huggins, who is the creator of Selenium WebDrive. Jason also said, Angie, I would totally automate the balloons. All right? Funny story. So these are real, and I like to work with my testers to see what they think. So I do automation, but I don't necessarily do testing. So we have people dedicated to do that. Strongly recommend this. Now, the tester came in, and we had a meeting, and we were going over these, and I asked which ones should we automate from their perspective, and they thought we should automate these balloons. And I was like, what? For number one, it's difficult, just from looking at it from this perspective, like some flying balloons, like what's right and what's wrong, right? How many balloons is right, you know? And 2 was, I don't really care if it doesn't work. If it's his birthday and the balloons don't fly up, I don't see the balloons fly up for his birthday, not a big deal. I don't really care. All right? So that's my thoughts. All right. So the next thing, the R stands for risk, right? So what do you do now? Now is where we get into a little math. So if you need a calculator, you can pull that out. So what I want you to do, to measure risk, I look at the probability, meaning the frequency of use by the customers. How frequently would they use this? What's the probability of the using this? Versus the impact. If this broken, what's the impact to our customers? Now, the scale, 1 means very low probability. 5 means very high. Same for impact. 1 is very low. 5 is very high. So I find my number. Let's say whatever test it was. I say, okay, it's about a 3 for probability and a 2 for impact. And then I multiply those numbers together, giving me a 6 for that column, for that cell, for that test. All right? Y'all looking at me like, girl, I just got off work. I'm not trying to do no math. Y'all all right? All right. Any questions? Is it confusing? All right. All right. So do your risk, R column. How are we doing? Good? You need more time or you're done? 1 more minute. All right, all right, all right, all right. How many 25s? Anyone have 25s for anything? Lots of people. All right. Any ones? Some ones? Someone had a 16. 17. They made up their own math, but hey, do what you want. All right. Someone tell me, what do you have a 25 for? Add a tweet and view tweets. All right. I'm curious. The folks who said that they wouldn't automate view tweets, what did you have for that? What score did you have? 25? Okay. All right. All right. All right. All right. And for one, any ones? What do you have? Which one? Huh? The balloons? Okay. Yeah. Location, set in the location. Which one? You said balloons too? Okay. Yeah. Analytics of a tweet was a 1 for you. Okay. All right. Very good. Very interesting. All right. So moving right along, your next column is value. The way I measure this is distinctness. Does this test provide new information? And you can just use the context of the rest of the scenarios that you have here. Let's say that these are the only 10 in the universe, right? Of these, does this particular test give you new information? Remember when we talked about noise and things like that, right? So consider that. And then induction to action. I changed this word. I thought I changed this. How quickly, yeah, this is supposed to be like ease, something like that. Anyway, induction to action. How quickly would this failure be fixed? So people didn't like the whole induction word. I'm like, what? All right. But how quickly would this be fixed? So if this broke and your automated test failed and you went to dev and said that this failed, how quickly would it be fixed? All right? So those are your 2 metrics. Yes. Question. Yes. What I mean by what? So let's say, for example, can I see your sheet? How we doing? All right, take one more minute. All right, we ready? Lots of good conversation. Very nice, very nice. Okay, let's move it along. Your next column is cost efficiency. All right, so this I measure by time and simplicity. Time, how quickly can this be scripted? 1 means not very quickly. 5 means very quickly. Simplicity, how easy will it be to script this? 1 means not very easy. 5 means very easy. All right? Questions? Does it twist your brain a little bit? I know. Little brain exercise. All right. Yes? Only the scripting time. Yes? Not always true, right? So, like for example, maybe the balloon scenario could take quite a bit of time to do, but it's not difficult to do. So there's some things where it's like, I know how to do it. You know, it's not like it's difficult, but it's time consuming to do it. Does that make sense? Time is 5 means quick. That's where the little brain tickle comes in. 5 means very simple. Yes. Yeah, you can use whatever you want. Yeah, yeah. Okay. All right. How we doing? About done? No. All right. Did anyone find anything interesting? Anything interesting in your discussions on this one? No? Someone said something I thought was interesting. It's like, well, a lot of these I might can do with the Twitter API and thus making them easy and simple. I thought that was a good observation. Some you might not be able to, like the viewing of a tweet, right? This is a very much so a UI-centric type of thing. Any other interesting conversations or observations? No? All right. Moving right along then. Your next column, last one, is history. What? What's wrong with y'all? Okay, so the way I measure this is how similar to weak areas. So the volume of historical failures in related areas versus the frequency of breaks. So the volume of historical failures for this test. So failures for this test versus tests in this vicinity, this area, related areas. So here is some fake data. Let's say that this is all the bugs that we have. We have bugs for a setting location. There are 51 bugs that have been written up against this. Updating a handle, 27 bugs. Pinning a tweet, 2 bugs. And viewing tweets, 10. Questions? Confused? Just bugs. The question was, are all of them from automation? We don't know. This is just bugs that were in the area. All right. Any other questions? You need clarification or just to read it yourself? Huh? The bottom axis says frequency of breaks, and is described as the volume of historical failures for this test. So for example, number 6 on your worksheet says set location. And then you see the area where there's 51 bugs for setting location. So that would fall on that axis, whereas this particular test has had some historical failures, right? Let's say that there was another test for location, like updating location. That would be a related area. Okay? Yes? Great question. So the question was, since this formula is used to tell us if we should even automate a test or not, does that imply that we need some historical data to be present before we could even make this call? Now, in some cases, it's a brand new area. Sometimes you're automating regression stuff, so it exists. Sometimes it's a brand new area, so you might not have data on this. You might not have any failures for this test because I'm automating in Sprint, for example. So the feature's not even released yet. That's fine. In cases like that, I would just mark those 0. Not even 1, like 0. And then like similar areas, there could be something similar. Like say, for example, it's not exactly the same functional area, but it's some text box. And I know that my devs always goof up text box. Like I can always put in a SQL injection and break it, for example. Not my devs, but for example, right? So then I would consider that like a related area in that case. Yes? Yes. So the question was, if it's not listed in that area section, are we assuming there are no bugs? That is true. 1 to 5? Okay, I have another question. Says, okay, give me an example with this range, right? So if I look at this, I'm going to just use number 6 for an example. Number 6 was setting a location. I look at my bugs. Of my bugs, setting location has the most bugs. So I would consider that a 5, right, on the frequency of breaks. Now, if setting location was the second or third one, then maybe I would put that as a 4 or something like that. But I would use it in relation to the total volume of bugs and how much of it is in this area. It's really a gutsy feel. There's no science to it. It's just like, woo, that's a lot of bugs, or no. So for that, that one is like what I said earlier. We had a test that said updating location. So that's different than setting. Yeah. So at number 6, I would do a 5, and then how are we doing? Are y'all about done? Yes. Who y'all doing the most with this little paper? Y'all doing the most. We got graphs and things going on. All right, let's take a couple more seconds and wrap that column up. All right, sounds good. Okay, now you have your columns. What I want you to do is to add them all up. So you're adding up the rows. So for example, if you looked at number 1, add a tweet, you're going to add up what you have in R, V, C, and H, and then you're going to put that number in the score column. Okay? So add them up. Yes? The check marks for gut, don't worry about putting that in your calculation. How we doing? Good? All right. So your score should be between like 0 and 25 or 0 and 100, sorry. No. The gut check, don't worry about that right now. So that's going to come into play. Where's my little clicker? That's going to come into play here. All right? So now that you have scores, here's your guide. If a certain test has a 0 to 24, that's an indicator to me that I wouldn't even automate it. It's not even worth it. If it has 75 or above, that's an indicator to me that this is definitely a candidate for automation. These are the things I want to automate. Everything in the middle is yellow, meaning possibly. You know, I can automate these if I want to. Now, the reason I had you do the gut check is to see how wrong you were. So based on the score, you can see what you had as a gut reaction. And for me, I like to do that just to keep myself in check. Say, girl, you don't know it all. You better do this formula. Because I get this wrong. But gut will say, yeah. And then when I look at all of these different aspects, it's like, that's not even worth it, right? What's really great about this is now you have all of your tests. Y'all all right? All right. What's really great about this is now you have all of your tests scored. So you can put these in order now, in an order, and they're ordered based on priority. So you can start pulling your highest priority tests and automating those or handing them off to whoever's going to automate them, right? And so let's say you get through your top 25% and you still have some more bandwidth. That's when you might start looking at that yellow one and say, okay, of these maybes, let's go after the top 10% of those, right? Because now they're scored. All right, so a couple of people asked me, was I going to give you the answer? There's no answers. This is a very subjective exercise, right? That's why I had you to work in pairs, so that you have somebody to kind of bounce the ideas off. This is a great exercise, like I might do this with my tester or my dev or as a team effort, right? So that you have the different opinions and things weighing in, all right? Now, what I will give you is some interesting things that I noticed in doing mine. So, for example, this one is different analysis, but the same score. So, number 1 was add a tweet. Number 6 was set location. From just a gut reaction kind of thing, adding a tweet seems like one of the most important things on the platform. Setting location, not so much. Who cares if people can set a location or not? So I would never have dreamed of these having the same score. But when I look at the different areas, adding a tweet, for risk it was high, the highest, value, highest, cost efficiency, highest, no historical failures. But setting location, while it was pretty low on risk and value, it was good for cost efficiency, and it had a bunch of historical failures, meaning this thing is failing all the time. So it might be a good idea to go ahead and automate that. And according to the score, no might in it. Go ahead and automate it, right? Just as much so as adding a tweet. So I found that really, really interesting. Also, this one wasn't on your sheet. This is number 24. So how many people finished their sheet? No one, right? Oh, look at you. I should have bought prizes. Okay. So no one ever finishes their sheet. And I used to have a bunch of these, like 25 of them, and so I cut them back to 10. But number 24 on there was adding a tweet to a moment, right? What was interesting here is the score is a 30, which is at the bottom of the maybe pile. But look at the cost efficiency of this. A lot of times we fall into the trap of saying, oh, it's really easy to automate and it won't take me much time to do it, so why not do it? But when you look at the risk and the value, extremely low. When you look at the historical failures, there are none. So why would you automate this? Only because it's easy and quick to do? Still time that it takes to do it, still time that you have to maintain it, still have to have this execute as part of your pipeline, right? If you're doing continuous integration or continuous delivery, this is adding time and possibly noise to your feedback. That's where you get in the case of, okay, do I want to block a deployment with this test? This one they would probably say, if it failed, oh, well, just disable it. No one's going to run to fix it before we deploy something, right? So that was interesting to me as well. Okay, anything interesting to you all? Anybody found anything that was interesting on their sheets? Yes? Okay, that's good. Okay, all right. Yes? You rated blocker user slightly higher than view tweets, and you thought that was interesting. Okay. You use Twitter? Okay. Girl, you want to block. You did. Really? You too? That means you all are indecisive. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. No. So if you find that, then that scale, you could very well tweak it, right? So whatever my highest number is, make that the top. And then take the top 25% and that becomes your green. Okay? All right. Cool. Dorothy Graham. Anybody heard of Dorothy Graham? Okay, so she is a pioneer in the testing industry. Dorothy took this workshop with me and she said, oh, Angie, I love it so much. And she made this spreadsheet where you can essentially put in your test and then she calculates all of the things with like fancy formulas and stuff like that. So this will also be available in the slides as a clickable link so you can have access to the spreadsheet. All right, so that's it. Make good choices, people. Are there any last questions for me? Okay, so I'll be around to the end of the meetup. I want to turn it over to Bria and the folks at SmartBear. So I'll be around if you think of any questions or about this or anything else, okay? Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for that, Angie. If I'm not the only one, I'm really second guessing my gut reactions now to pretty much everything. So I think we learned a lot here, and now we're going to hand it over to Bria and Joan, who are on the SmartBear team, and they're going to talk about how to supercharge your testing and start automating.
Alrighty, think this thing is on. We're all set? Awesome. Thank you so much, Angie. That was super fun. Alex, I agree. I think I'm going to have to second guess every decision I make now and actually put some numbers behind it. So Joan and I were crafting this presentation and thinking about, how could we take what Angie told us and bring it to the next level? What exactly can we discuss? And really just take that automation to the next level for those of you just starting to automate, maybe already automating, and then different techniques you can do from there. So with that, we're going to go ahead and get started. If I can switch this, do I point this at a certain thing? No. It's on. I think I pressed the arrow. It's okay if not. I can. Perfect. So while we move forward with that slide, we're going to do a really quick introduction of who we are. To start it off, my name is Bria Grangard. Super honored to have a lot of you here. I'm on the product marketing team for our automated UI functional testing tools, as well as our test management solutions. Super excited to have my partner here, Joan.
My name is Joan, and I am a product manager for cross-browser testing, one of the SmartBear products. I've only been at SmartBear for 3 months, so I'm kind of new to the testing world.
But we're super excited to have you. So with that, we also want to talk about what we're going to be covering in today's agenda. Really briefly want to tell you who SmartBear is, what building are you actually in, and who are these people you probably see walking by you. We'll do a brief overview of what's going on in the testing world. Then talk about, some tips and tricks for improving your testing today, diversifying your testing suite, as well as then taking your automation to the next level through parallel testing. So we'll do an overview on parallel testing, and finally, the benefits of parallel testing. We're gonna end it with a really great demo that Joan has put together on cross-browser testing and the things that we're going to be discussing today. And then we will, of course, have a question and answer period, or feel free to flag either of us at the end of this. We're really excited. So with that, who is SmartBear? So we provide tools for development, testing, and operations teams to create great software faster than ever. We have over 6.5 million users in 22,000 companies and over 194 countries. We're excited to have you all here in our headquarters in our little town of Somerville in Boston. And we also have 7 offices globally, with our European headquarters in Galway, our Australian headquarters in Melbourne, Australia. We were founded in 2009, and you probably have heard of us because of some of our flagship products, Swagger, as well as Soap UI. We are large contributors for open source innovation. And really, all of our products in our portfolio, we focus on 3 kind of pillars. First is accelerating our software development lifecycle workflows while still maintaining the improving quality at every stage and realizing rapid time to value. So you'll see that as simple with cross-browser testing. It's easy to get up and running and started. And with that, I wanted to show you just how wide and incredible our product portfolio is. There's a lot of tools that span the entire SDLC, from development, testing, and operations at both the UI layer as well as the API layer. And then, of course, we have some test management solutions and continuous testing platforms to really bring all of that together. And we integrate with a ton of tools you're already using, so really making our tools fit your solutions rather than having to adapt your way of working to our tools. So with that, that is who SmartBear is. And now we'll go into what is going on in the testing world. So you've probably been hearing a lot of these words. Joan, I'm going to guess you've probably heard a few of these up here. AI, machine learning, BDD, what's it all really mean, and why are we even talking about it? Well, we have to kind of face the obvious, that there are bottlenecks going on in today's development process. We always come back to the iron triangle: speed, quality, and cost. And teams today are facing a lot of pressure to release faster without compromising quality, which can be really hard, and you're probably feeling a lot of pressure as a tester. Automation and the skills that Angie just taught us really helps you ramp up to a certain point. But it's only so far that it can be scalable, and you need to take your automation and your testing to the next level. So what are the other techniques that can help you go faster? Well, those are some of the ones we're going to be discussing today, including parallel testing to help you scale. But let's talk about the promise of the new software delivery cycle. Traditionally, how many folks in here are practicing a waterfall methodology? Anyone? How many going agile? Anyone feel like they've embraced the DevOps way? Okay, nice. So it seems like the majority of people are probably in this middle row here. However, there are still a lot of people out there using a waterfall methodology where, our business analysts, our product managers had time set aside to really design our requirements. From there, they pass it off to our developers, bring it to life, say, oh, this is what this requirement meant, let's bring it to life. From there, they pass it off to the testers to verify, hey, did the developers do their job? Are we finding any bugs? Let's pass it back on to the developers. And finally, the implementation phase, saying, okay, we're monitoring, we're making sure this is going off, producing at the end this one unit. Now, when we move to an agile methodology, it's all about iteration. It's all about breaking down a lot of these silos. So you see, we're constantly iterating more, we're getting more feedback, and everyone's being brought into the conversation a little bit earlier. And then we move into DevOps, which goes even faster. However, when you notice, in general, when we're looking at this entire SDLC, no matter what methodology you're using, the amount of time you have for testing isn't necessarily getting shorter. but it's actually probably isn't getting longer. It's actually getting shorter while the amount of testing you need to do is increasing. And there's a few reasons why the amount of testing you need to do is increasing. Just here focusing on the time-consuming nature of web testing. You'll see on the left-hand side, when looking at the age of a product, as you increase the number of feature sets, the amount of testing you have to do increases exponentially. A few reasons for this. Think of your favorite application. Before I moved over to an Apple Watch, I was an avid Fitbit user. I really loved it. Could track my steps. It could also track the amount of water I was drinking. I could input that, which was really great. 6 months later, my dad got a Fitbit. Now he could share his information with me and I could share with him. We also had a lot of other cool features. We could challenge each other in the Weekend Warrior. We could also taunt and cheer one another on. And every time you add more features, the amount of testing you have to do increases exponentially. So it kind of makes sense. Now, as we move on over here, we also think about the popularity of a product. When you think about just the reach you want to have your product available to in people of all geographies, everyone from different age levels, the amount of features as well as number of browsers increases again. So when we're seeing this, we're seeing the number of features that need to be tested as well as the number of browsers that need to be tested on are both increasing exponentially. So now how do we solve this problem? And there are a few ways we've outlined here. The first, quite simply, you can test less. However, I'm going to say no one in this room is going to agree with that as a possible or realistic solution. But I did want to say, hey, this is a thing you can do. I wouldn't recommend it. Of course, that's going to lead to more bugs. And a bug that someone finds, your end user finds, is a lot more expensive than a bug you find in testing or development. You could hire more testers. I know I always tell my boss, I'm like, hey, could we get 2 of me and we could double the work that gets output? It's going to be great. But at some point, our managers, our senior management has to say, hey, that's only scalable to a certain point. And also it costs a lot of money. And at some point, we need to get a little bit more efficient with the time we are given. So that's why we are going to be discussing 2 options today, diversifying your testing suite, as well as running your tests in parallel. So to briefly take you through diversifying your testing suite, there are many types of tests that need to be done. Let's take the classic e-commerce example, the one that is always blogged about, logging onto Amazon.com, searching for an item, adding it to your cart, entering in your user credentials. Think about all the different layers and elements that are being interacted with in this entire test. Now, where do you start with automating? Angie just helped you walk through that. But I would encourage everyone to kind of come back to the testing pyramid. So I'm sure a lot of people who in this room has seen Mike Cohn's test automation pyramid. Has seen it? Has. All right. So we're at like solid 60, 70%. Okay, good. So for those of you who have not seen it, this is kind of an outline of how many tests should be in your overall testing suite. So from unit test to service test, UI test, and manual test. And this can be really important. I encourage all of you to think about, hey, can I say with confidence that 50% or more of my tests between my developers and my testers are these unit tests? I don't know. Can a lot of you say that with confidence? If so, that's great. Keep doing what you're doing. If not, maybe go rethink. A lot of times people will flip this pyramid upside down and they'll get a lot more UI tests, those flaky tests that are unreliable with the majority of their tests. And that's not necessarily the best situation you want to do. So using this as a guideline, we recognize it's not perfect, can really help you when starting to figure out your best testing strategy.
Okay, so Angie already asked some of this question, but so I'm going to skip over to the last part where, is there anybody in here who's not doing automation yet? Any amount of automation? Oh, great. So what we do notice is that some companies haven't moved to automation yet. And so the reason why they haven't done that is because they need some buy-in from their management or their coworkers. So I'm just going to run through some ROI numbers in case there's anybody online who is in that camp. Everybody here does automation. That's great. So suppose that your company is about to launch a version 2 of a product, and you have 1,000 test cases, and your company has decided that they want to support 10 of the most common browsers and device combinations. This means that you're going to be running 10,000 test cases. If you were purely manual, each of these test cases could probably take you about 4 minutes each, leading to a total test time of 666 hours. So with 5 manual testers, that's 3.5 weeks of testing. Now, if you were fully automated, all your automated tests would run a lot faster, and instead of the 4 minutes average, you can bring it down to half a minute. And now these 10,000 test cases only take you 83 hours, which with 2 engineers, you can finish in 1 week testing. So for people who haven't started automating, again, sometimes it's because you don't have the buy-in. And so you have to start setting some standards and say, this is what we think we should start working with. And Angie's guide is great, so you can start there. Get with some people in your company and start with your gut and follow through. But if that doesn't work, a couple of other ways that you can create buy-in is think about something that just recently broke. Software. Something must have broke. Something was really painful. Advocate for that to be test automated so that it doesn't break again in the future. And you can also automate for something that's coming new, like in the example for version 2. You're already kind of familiar with the product, you're kind of familiar with the use case, and you can go through and advocate for automating those tests. So when you're moving from manual to automated tests, you're really starting to transform your dev pipeline from manual testing to continuous testing. But even with the benefits from a diversified testing process, there is still a deadline that you're facing. Your running tests in parallel requires teams to get to more devices and maintain more environments. So this is where teams start to move to the cloud for some cloud providers in order to save money and save time. So how many people have heard this? So sometimes dev teams say that you don't have a whole week to test. This needs to go out in days. So how do you speed up? And this is where we talk about parallel testing. So with the 10,000 test cases earlier, we were talking about testing sequentially. So each test case has to be executed across those 10 different browser and device combinations in sequence. But if you can run 20 test cases at the same time or in parallel, then you can run your entire 10,000 tests in only 4 hours. So how can you do parallel testing? Again, you could set up your own virtual machines and set up these environments and run them on your site, or you can get a cloud test provider who can help you manage that and run your tests quickly. So there are some types of tests to run in parallel that you'll really see a return on investment. The first one is cross-browser testing. So you want to make sure that your application or your website works for all of your customers on a variety of browsers and devices. So a lot of companies have chosen to make a trade-off and say, because these are harder, or take a longer periods of time, we want to pick and choose. And so if you're running your browser and device cross-browser testing, if you're running your cross-browser tests in parallel, then you can choose more devices and browser combinations to run against. Another one is regression testing. So regression testing is really essential between deployments. This process is vital to make sure that your updates aren't breaking anything in your software. Sorry. And then there's another good test to start automating are unit tests. Unit tests by nature are small because they're testing a very small piece of your software. And so because they're small and they're testing each little piece, they might number in the thousands to tens of thousands. So if you can parallel test these, then you can be running tens of thousands of tests quickly. And finally, smoke testing is a great thing to automate as well. Smoke testing is focused on making sure that the most essential elements of your software is functional. So if your testing fails a smoke test, then there's no need to continue testing, and you can get feedback back to your team sooner. For example, it's not worth it to test how great this new feature is or push out that hot fix if your users can't even log into your application. So just to recap, the benefits of parallel testing are you can get quicker deployments, run as many tests as you want, whether it's 2 or 10 or 50 or even 100 or 200. You can choose how fast you want to deploy. You get faster feedback as you're testing back to your developers, and that helps them fix their problems before they've moved on to something else. And this means that you can ship faster to your customers so they can give you feedback on what you've built. Then parallel testing also allows you to test more in more browsers and devices, expanding your test coverage. As you're moving to automation, you're going to spend more time. You're going to spend less time doing the same test over and over again, which allows you to expand your test coverage and more environments. And this all saves everybody some valuable time. So now I'm going to do a simple record and replay demo of cross-browser testing. It's going to be simple as it's running late.
All right, we'll do a really quick demo, walking you through what we show. Alrighty, so up on the screen. Perfect.
So with cross-browser testing, we have a very simple record and replay tool. So this is definitely for people who haven't necessarily started automating. So at cross-browser testing, we use Optimizely, and this allows us to change out buttons and call to actions. And so we really want to make sure that Optimizely doesn't break our website. So again, this is a very simple test. I type in the URL that I want to test, and I hit record script. And this makes just a configuration because it doesn't matter. Oh. Go try that again.
Woo, cross-browser testing. This is my second presentation today with technical difficulties.
It might have been I had the browser open too long.
So we had the browser open for a few hours now, so it was like, oh, you clearly stopped working, so we're going to kick you off.
Was there like a breathalyzer in this microphone?
Yeah, that's what it is. You weren't supposed to tell them what we did before, Joan.
Yeah. Okay, so again, we have Optimizely on this, and so now this browser has loaded. And so let's say I always want the CTA to say start a free trial. So here I might add an expect. And again, I pick an element that says, and I click on the element that I want to test. And so this one says start a free trial, and cross-browser testing really helps you fill that out. So I hit OK. And then I want to make sure that this button actually does take us to the free trial form. So I'm going to click on that button. It's going to load the new page. And I'm going to add another expect. But this time I'm going to check the URL to make sure it's loading the right URL. And so again, it pre-populates that information for me. It's going to be crossbrowsertesting.com/free trial. I'm going to hit OK. And then just to make sure that the web page is perfectly fine, I'm going to add a couple of more, one more expect for, just to make sure this heading is correct. And one thing about this automation is you can also add some scrolls. So I'm going to add a scroll. I'm going to add a scroll back up. And that's going to be the extent of my test day. And I'm going to save the script. So after I save this script, as you can see, it's captured all of my steps on this page in a very human-readable format. And I can come in and edit the name, add the better description, but what I can also do is replay the script. And I can choose to run it again in the Windows 10 or Chrome 66 environment, or I can say, hey, let's test some Safari.
I like Macs. They're cool.
Yeah. So I'm going to choose Mac 10.13, Safari 11, and hit replay. And now it's going to replay my script and go through all the steps and also provide me with a video to show me how this replay is going. And I just did this with one manual test. So it's launching the crossbrowsertesting.com website.
Now, as it goes through the steps, you can actually see it saying, yep, we did that one, next. And it scrolls through all the steps you did to confirm that each step passed.
And then once it's done, it sets the overall test score of either pass or fail. So that's just one test, but cross-browser testing also lets you replay a whole suite. So I'm going to come over here to a suite, and I actually already have a test suite set up, but I'm going to add this new one that I just created. So I'm going to add this script. This one is going to be testing the CTA. I'm going to add the script. As you can see, there are now 4 test scripts inside this test suite. And I've chosen 6 different browser and device combinations that I'm going to run. And this is really the power of parallel testing, because now I can just hit Run Suite, and you can see all of my tests are queued up, and they're going to start running one by one, and then they'll be marked as pass or fail. And I can continue running this test suite, and I can keep adding more tests to it. And so that is parallel testing with cross-browser testing.
Yeah, so in theory, if we were to run each of these sequentially, it would take us a lot longer, but now we are running how many tests at once? We are running 14 tests out of 25, 15, 16. So up until 25 tests in parallel. So really reducing the amount of time by testing, in this case, 1/20th of the time. So that's really the power of being able to save your time while maximizing your test coverage, which is something we wanted to be able to demonstrate through with parallel testing and taking your automation up to the next level. So with that, I think we're all set.
Yep, that's it.
If there's any questions online, any questions here, feel free to ask. I know we're right up to the 8 o'clock mark, so if a few people need to scoot out, we understand too, but we'll be around for sure. Help yourself to pizza and drinks in the back as well. Otherwise, thanks for joining.